Welcome everyone, thank you for joining me. Brandon Schaefer here. I want to talk a little bit about the second master copy in my sketchbook that I did recently, and this one I did the same method as the first one that you guys saw of the woman artist, and got them right here so you can see. So this was the first one. This was the first one that I did, and this is the second one now. So really nice spread in the little sketchbook here. Definitely going to be good to reference in the future for skin tones and things like that, I think. And it'll be cool to just look back eventually if I ever get better. Hopefully when I get better at doing portraits, I can look back at these and really pick apart what's wrong with them even more. So I did the same method with this one as I did with the woman. So what I do is, actually, let me say there is one little difference here. So with this portrait, I did the sketch first, and then I did clear gesso over that. I think I talked about that in another video when I did this one. So I did clear gesso over the sketch. With this one, I did white gesso and then sketched on the gesso. And that was a little more of a pain to work with, just with the graphite and everything. Being exposed to the paint layer, you know, kind of dirtied the paint a bit in the first layer, which was fine anyway because I was just doing a grisaille. This one I did not start out with a grisaille layer. I started out with just kind of more of a muted or dead coloring stage, if you want to call it that. It was kind of just filling in the overall tones, you know, a tan, white, black, and then kind of this red background. That's kind of what I was going for. And then the first layer, after that, I let that dry, and then I went back to did the first layer of paint. And with the first layer, I'm not looking for to get really detailed or, you know, to really fill in any of the details. It was more of getting, you know, the color around the mouth, the color of the cheeks, the color of the shadow, the color of the background, the color of the hair, color of the forehead. So relating all these different hues to one another. You know, the white to the skin, and but just getting these different nuances, because there's around his mouth, there's his lips, his top lip compared to his bottom lip, or the right side of the lips compared to the left side of the lips, and then around his mouth compared to the lips is a little bit cooler, and then the cheeks are a little bit warmer. So I'm juggling all these hue shifts on this first layer, and then I take it to the museum to see, I'm like, okay, I did enough work on it. I can't really go any further if I don't know what's wrong with it and what's right with it. So then I take it to the museum, compare it to the original, and take some notes, because there's a lot of things wrong. And the main thing was the skin color. Mine was way too yellow. And the funny thing is, I even prepared for that, because in this first master copy that I did, I found out that what I was painting was the skin tones were way too yellow compared to the original, and I figured out what was happening. So the lights in my studio are more of a white light. The temperature of the light is 5500 K. You know, there's a whole range of temperatures when it comes to light bulbs. And my light bulbs are 5500 K for the most part. And I think the museum lighting is a little bit warmer, or much warmer, more yellow. And I figured that out because I would take a photo of the painting in the museum with my phone, bring it back, put it on my iPad, and then paint from the iPad using that reference. And I did that with this painting, and her skin ended up being way too yellow. And I was, you know, comparing my painting with the iPad, and it was very, very close. You know, I was matching these colors very closely. But obviously, since my lights are wider, something that's yellow in my studio is going to look even more yellow when you have warmer light on it. So that was the tricky part, and especially with this guy here, his skin is much tanner, darker, warmer than her skin tone. You know, she has a very ivory, light, pale skin tone, and he has much more tan skin tone. And I noticed this in the museum, so I knew that there was going to be differences here on the page. I knew he's going to be more reds and yellows, she's going to be more pinks and white. So I tried to correct for that on the first stage, and it still didn't work. He still needed more reds in his skin. So I came back, corrected that, added even more reds, and and thought I was gonna be very close. So I did the second layer. I came back, did the second layer of painting, and that's something really clicked for me during the second layer. I started to really understand the indirect method of painting. I was pretty excited because I was like, man, it makes sense. I understand now why you don't get very detailed in that first layer, because then you come on to the second layer and you can be so much more accurate. You get stuff much more smoother, and it's just easier to figure out the details and stuff, and you can you know, really start creating the form and getting the colors more accurate, getting the details. It just makes sense to me now. I think it takes a few paintings, and I'm probably still gonna have many of those moments where I'm like, oh, something just clicked again. You know, it's always these epiphanies that you get that are a lot of fun, man. And you just gotta keep sticking with it if you've never had one of those moments where you're like, oh, it makes so much sense. Just keep going with the paintings and stuff will just start clicking over time, I think. So I put all the details in that I could, got it as close as I could to the reference photo, and then I went back to the museum one last time to compare it. And I'm pretty happy with the result. I mean, obviously there's some differences, but I think I got much closer with this guy than I did with this woman. She was way more difficult. You know, there was a lot more changes to make with her still. And with this guy, there was only a few that I could really see. You know, I needed more warmth in the nostril. The blacks need to be a little bit cooler. I had them too red, too warm. The background needs to be slightly grayer. The skin, overall, the biggest thing is the skin tone is much more yellow. And I already explained that earlier. It's just tough with the lights in the museum compared to the lights in my studio. So having to try to balance that, it's very, very tricky because, you know, if I would go too cool or something, then I'd have to, you know, warm it up with more yellow, and then, you know, it's just a back and forth thing. But I think I got it pretty close and I'm happy with the result. Obviously, he's a little too yellow, you know, especially when you compare him to my skin tone. I'm more pale like she is, but so he should be just a little bit more tan than me, but he's a little too yellow. But overall, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the result, luckily, and I learned a lot from this, man. It's such an amazing exercise, such a great exercise to do. Yeah, it's cool to see that I'm progressing in some way, you know, even if it's just a small thing, like, you know, having less mistakes on this one than with this one, or less changes to make. And every painting I do, I try to get better and really push myself to do better. And you know, I don't know if I'm gonna do another Mastercopy anytime soon. Maybe I will, you know. Right now I'm kind of, I think I'm gonna go back to drawing, do some more drawings in my sketchbook, and maybe try to do some cast drawings from life, maybe do some site size, really just go back to basics again, you know, break it down and see if I can get even more realistic, really focus on form and rendering, values, structure, proportions, stuff like that, because there's always like mistakes with the proportions and the drawing and stuff in my portraits. And you know, at some point it's kind of inevitable you're gonna have little tiny tweaks, but I'm trying to get it as close as I can to be real life and realistic. So I think I'm gonna go back to drawing for maybe, you know, a week or two, and then maybe go back to the museum, find another painting I want to copy and do it that way. I'm not sure yet. I just don't have anything planned right now, but in the near future here, I'll probably plan something. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the little video, little explanation of kind of what went on and kind of the big problems I had with these portraits and stuff. But it's been a lot of fun either way. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take care of yourself.